Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode here at Garage Time TV. I am Marshall, and today we are going to be jumping back, well, kind of back, onto our 1974 Volkswagen Transporter bus. Now, over time, my wife and I have been working on this a little bit here and there. I mean, we even added the emblem here in the front. But what we're trying to do is make this into our weekend camper where we can get out, away from the city, and enjoy some nature once in a while. So we're going to be tackling this throughout the channel here and there, occasionally with little projects, and I want to just kind of bring you along with that. But today what we're going to be doing is taking some of that raw wood material here behind me, and we're actually going to be making the storage cabinet underneath the back bench. Now the back bench just kind of rests at a downward slope, and it's not very comfortable to sit at. So we're actually going to make the front of the cabinet help hold up that seat so it's nice and level. We're also going to make a door into it to access underneath it for storage for when we take those trips. So there's quite a few things we've got to do here, but let's jump into it, kind of show you what we're looking at, what we're working with, and kind of the concept, and we'll start making it all come together. So we're inside the bus, and I had this bench here, and we just put some foam on it, and we went to the fabric store, some cheap $7 fabric, and covered it, and it actually looks pretty decent. It even got the lines, well, there you go, kind of lined up, but we've got those in. So what I've got now is these jack stands are actually holding the bench level. Now when you take these out, you can already see it starts to go down. Take out this one. There. Now that kind of gives you perspective of why that's not comfortable to sit in at all. But these are 1 foot tall, so if we go 12 inches from the floor up to where the bottom wood of the bench is, it actually holds that level, which is the same height as these jack stands. So what we're going to do is make a front face here and a little side there, and we've got some trim to hide the joint, and then we've also got some toe shoeboard trim to decorate the outside there. We're going to do our best to go straight from here over. Now there may be a little gap here, but we could use some of the leftover pieces to make kind of a 90 here to help hold it up, to make it more nice and stable. And we'll eventually put that into the floor. And that way it'll help hold up the bottom of the seat so it's level, so when you sit on it, you're actually comfortable. So what I want to do is make that front board, and I want to have an access hatch here in the middle. Now the original Westfalia buses had storage underneath, and you had like a drop-down door where you could get into there and store stuff. So we want to do that same thing here, but we're going to make our own and try and match it as good as possible, I guess, to this. So we're not going to be bolting it down today or anything like that. I just want to get it together so that way when it's all assembled, we can stain it and try and match this as good as we can, or maybe we'll just go black, or I don't know. Haven't quite decided yet, but that's what we're going to plan is. So I want to start laying out some wood and start measuring up some stuff. The bench is 48 inches, so it's super easy to measure with. So we have some 2x2 fir inch strips. We're going to frame out the front with those fir strips to add stability. And then we'll add that side to make it stand on its own, and add some fir strips on as well, and see how that looks. So let's start cutting some stuff out, we'll start measuring it, and then we can start doing some test fitting here and there and see how it comes together. So you can kind of see the concept I'm going for. This is the inside, the nice finished side that faces out on the bottom there. But you can kind of see we're just kind of creating a frame. One, I just want somewhere for the seat to actually sit on, that stable, nice wide area. And we've got this shoe trim here, and this is going to be covering our screw holes. You can kind of see it's skinny here, wider here, and it's got this kind of half moon shape on the front. A little decorative trim there. And that's going to go on the front, so when we screw through the front to attach these, that will hopefully cover those screw holes. That way it has a nice finished look. But this is what we're kind of going after. The next trick is going to see with this in place, and we'll screw this in, is our door. So we're going to have to measure the gap between where the Z-bed brackets are, kind of see what those are. And I think I want to make the hole just slightly smaller than that. And I don't know if I want to go square, or do I want to go with a jigsaw and kind of make an edge that's rounded. Rounded would be kind of more for the period. That's what they came with, was like a rounded side. But I don't know if I have like a circle template to do that. I don't even think I have a compass to make a circle like that. I have to find a a can off the shelf and use that as my half circle. But let's I think I want to screw these in, and then we'll go with holy sawdust. All right, then after we screw these in, we'll start measuring out for our hole and see where that all lines up. We've got it loosely installed here. I just have it pressed up against there, and you can see our bench is nice and level. A little bit of a gap on the side, but it's not quite a big deal. When you get like blankets and stuff, we'll end up covering all that. We don't have our vertical supports in here yet, but it's, I mean, it's super solid in there. So I think the next thing is we're gonna see where those brackets are, and then try and make an access door pretty close to those, not quite, but pretty close, so we can get full access in there. That way we really take advantage of all this space under there and not lose it to this bench. The nice thing is when we pull this bed up and out, we'll actually be able to access it from the top as well, for maybe even some bulkier stuff that won't fit through there. But again, ideally we'll just use this drop down. So let's measure the gap, and we can start marking out a door.
A few moments later.
So we've got our lines drawn. All we did in there was we flipped it down and marked where the inside of those Z-bed brackets were. When we measured it out, it's about 23¼ inches. So we might just do 24 for easy math. And since this is 48, we can come in 12, and there you go. Boom, centered is our door. Super easy math. And that way it doesn't look awkward or off. And maybe we can even add this access door on the side. I don't know, that's a little ambitious maybe, but if we go 12 in here and 12 in here, now our door is centered to the underside. Where it ended up lining up with a little off, a little sideways, it's just between the brackets, but I think it's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches on this side. To center it based on the whole thing and kind of have awkward access, or center it to the underside of it. I think I want to center it just to the whole board, just for looking from the outside in. It'll be nice and clean. It won't look awkward and off. So I think we're just going to go 12 in from both sides. What I do want to do is do it from this side and cut down. Maybe we have to put some tape on here so it'll have a nice clean cut finish with a jigsaw blade and not be all torn up and fraying everywhere. We've got our X's drawn to where our complete endpoints are going to be, and I think I'm just going to go with a square door just because it's a lot easier to work with, and I don't have to worry about following a perfect curve on the first try with a jigsaw, because I know I'm not going to do it. So I think we're just going to go with a square shape just for simplicity, and the square gives us a little bit more access on the inside as well. So if we want to look at it, just kind of a testing point here is this mark and this mark. These are our 12 and 12 marks. So if we wanted to, let's say that this is, where's the top? The top is down here, so this is the top. T. Alright, so the top is here. Let's come around, make it a little easier. Alright, top is now on the top. So this is a 2-inch strip, which really means it's like 1 3/4, I think. Barely 1.5 at best. So we would have to come down at least 1.5 inches here to start our access. So if we came down, this is really hard to do with one hand, by the way. So if we came down 2.5 inches, so right here, 2.5 inches to the start of our door, and our door stopped at 2.5 inches on the bottom, and our whole thing is 12, that'd be 5 inches, which would leave us with a 7-inch gap in the middle. Basically like that, roughly. I think that's plenty of space to get little blankets or tubs or whatever in there, especially across this whole space. It's a pretty big hole. So I think we're going to go 2.5 down from the top, 2.5 from the bottom, and draw the lines, connect the dots, and start cutting out that hole in one try, because you've got to use the door. So this is going to be super not fun at all to do. So this ends up being our square, 2.5 inches up, 2.5 inches here, and this ends up being about a 7-inch gap all the way down. And I do like that we decided to center it to the whole board, not off, just to line up with the holes that are, the brackets that are underneath the bench. So I like this much, much better. The challenge is going to be, how do we cut out a perfect door? And I don't know if we're really going to be able to, because a lot of these, like when you have to cut a hole like this in the middle, is you use a hole saw, like a circle, big huge circle bit, you drill out the corners, and you get your jigsaw and do it that way, or a circular saw and use that as a starting point. So I don't know if we're going to be able to use this door, well, what would be a door, over again. We may have to, I don't know, maybe go with another piece. We do have leftover over there, and cut out a nice new piece out of it. It'd be kind of interesting to have contrasting pattern in here, kind of cut out this big dark spot and maybe get a light piece out of there, maybe that bottom corner there where it's a little bit lighter, to get some more of that grain texture in it. But I don't think I'm going to be able to save it and cut a perfectly square hole, because this is going to be a challenge. Now we could have the door, so if it's not perfect, we could make a second door that's a little bit bigger, and then it'll hide any imperfections in our cuts. But again, we're still going to have to cut out the corners to get that in. Maybe you have some tips. I am no carpenter, but if you have tips on how to do stuff like this, put it in the comments down below. But I think that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to cut out these corners, do it out, and maybe have a separate piece over the front. I think that's originally how Volkswagen had it, was just a separate piece over the hole to cover it. I have some hinges. I think they'll work, maybe not, but we'll give it a shot. We do have a locking mechanism on the top that's like a magnet from a little plate, so that should work just fine once we get it set and adjusted. Anyway, let's cut this out, and then we can start playing around with how we're going to latch this door. So we ended up taking the circular saw and just cutting those straight lines. It ended up working pretty good. They're not absolutely perfect, but with a jigsaw it would have been even worse. And we probably didn't have to cut out those corners, but it did make it a little easier as far as knowing when to stop. Our corners aren't perfect. The circular saw, with its natural circle, kind of nicked some of these corners. So we're definitely going to have to make a door that covers this. But we're going to have to be cautious, because I want to make sure that the hinges I got can accommodate that. So if it's something that's got to sit on the inside here and extend out, or if it is something that's on the front that has to open this, I don't know. It's just got to open. So we've got the magnet that we'll be able to attach here with a little piece of the first strip. Let's put down here, and it'll sit on that as a magnet to keep the door shut. Just now a matter of cutting out a door. We could even do a, nope, we're not going to do that. We're just going to do a square and cover that, and then start messing with the hinges and stuff. But I think I've got something that'll work.
1 hour later.
So this is kind of what I'm coming up with, is it covers it completely, and there's about a 1/2 inch gap all the way around, and these hinges actually go up onto the door. These are for cabinets, And I kind of like how they're black because it kind of hides them, but we've got this on our shelf from when we redid our kitchen, so it's just kind of a handle we already have, and we could always replace that later. I think it's a pretty universal size, but it's a nice grip there. And I do like that. The only thing I'm worried about is the trim that goes across the bottom. I want to make sure it doesn't run into this, so we may have to bump this up just a little bit because it is 3/4 inch trim all the way up. So let's measure here. So if we go from here, yeah, so that's about 3/4 inch right there. So we might have to bump it up just a hair more, but it still covers a hole, which is important. And I think something like that, and then our trim will go all the way around the outside to kind of finish it off. We do have an edge piece over there that'll kind of cover this side when we get another piece on here to block what's along this wall on the inside. But I'm kind of liking that. I think that's what we're going to go with. I have yet to decide if we're going to stain it or what, but I think maybe we'll shoot it black. I don't know, maybe that'll do the wood disservice. I don't know. What would you do if you would stain it or paint it or what? Just put it down in the description there in the comments. I'd appreciate that. Maybe we'll paint it the same white that we did for the headline on the inside. That might be a good idea, kind of like a whitewash to kind of make it look worn. That'd be kind of cool with the black hinges and everything. It'd be kind of interesting looking. So I think we're going to keep going on this. This is kind of the general idea of we're going with this. Just something easy to get into with it. So what I'm going to do off camera just to kind of speed up this, because we're losing on the daylight here, is cut the side, kind of do some measuring with that. Add our side supports as well, so we have something to screw those sides into to really start moving on this, and then maybe we can start putting some paint on it, which would be kind of nice to start really bringing it all together.
The next day.
All right, so it's the next day, and it kind of got dark on us, so we had to wrap up pretty quick, but this is what we came up with. Is it perfect? No, I mean, I didn't get these quite close enough, and this trim isn't quite thick enough, but we got the trim surround all the way on the outside to hide those screws. We also added our door with our handle, and there's a magnetic latch here, so when you close it, locks it. Our hinges work great, and again, I'm kind of frustrated about that, but I mean, in reality, we could put like a wood filler in there, let it dry, and then paint it. But this is on the inside of the bus, so it's not one of the first things you see. A couple holes, I'll live with it. If I want to go back later, fill it in, and then repaint it, I can. But it's time to finally paint this thing. I think we're going to go with white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the handle and then paint it all on there, because we can pull this down and paint the inside and everything to kind of match it so it looks halfway decent. We're going to paint all the way around the outside, and while that dries, we're going to come in here and do some touch-ups, because there's a couple spots that need to get some work done on them. We're going to let this dry. It's a nice, awesome 65 degrees out here, and it feels fantastic, so it's a perfect day to be out here. So let's get to painting this thing and start bringing it to life. I want to take it off of this in case we need this for a future project. I don't want a bunch of paint all over it. So I'll remove that. One thing is on the side here, this is where the wheel well is on that back corner. And all I did is take some of this ram board. This is like the equivalent of like a soda box, like a 24 pack of soda box or a beer box, whatever you got. And that is really what that is. I just went in there, forced it in that corner, kind of drew it out, creased it, cut it out, and then kind of trimmed it from there, made it smaller and smaller until we've got an identical fit there. That's how I came up with that. And that on the back side, we've got our vertical pillars here, and this is just screwed into the vertical pillar there as well. So it holds it in there. It's basically just to block off that side so stuff doesn't come sliding out. So let's remove this, start painting and bringing this thing to life. Well, we finally got it installed here and it looks really, really good. I'm glad that we painted this to just match the ceiling and the rest of the light going on, not necessarily trying to stain to match this brownish gray floor that we have here. So it's just nice to match the cleanliness, and it's super easy to open, just like that. And we have tons of space under here. I'm glad we centered it, just because the access to this side, if we would have done it off, we wouldn't be able to use advantage of this side here. Same for that way, we can use a little bit of that space there. But it works super, super good. It didn't cost a whole lot. I think all materials all in. I had the hinges and the handle, and I had the screws for the trim, the wood, and the first strips. I think it was like 60 bucks to get it all done. And of course I had all the tools already. This is something that I did in just a few hours. You know, overnight we let it kind of cure and stuff. Just ran out of daylight. But it looks really, really good, and it's super solid, and I'm super happy with it. I think that's going to be the end of this episode. I really appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing really, really helps the channel, so please make sure you do that. Only 25% of people that watch this video are subscribed, so make sure you guys hit that button and the notification bell so you know when new content comes out. Like I said, we're going to be working on this bus all the time. There's always constant improvements, so make sure you guys are getting those notifications. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you.